Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I am humbled and honored to have worked for the Department of Children and Families for over 25 years, and although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I am inviting experts in those fields to share their knowledge. Joining me in the studio today is Robin McCallan from the Executive Director of True Colors. True Colors is a nonprofit organization that works with other social service agencies, schools, organizations, and within communities to ensure that the needs of sexual and gender minority youth are both recognized and met with competence. Robin will walk us through over their many years of work that has ensured the full equality of LGBTQ youth, adults, and families. Robin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
On Doors to Hope and Healing. I understand you've been working with LGBTQ youth for many years.
Yes.
Over 25 years.
Over 25.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself before we
Sure.
get into your work?
Sure. Well, so True Colors, the agency that I run, started as a fieldwork project when I was getting my master's at UConn. Oh. And it was supposed to be a one-time conference on the needs of LGBTQ plus youth. And then the youth that helped organize it and I were really so transformed by the experience that we decided to keep going. So that was back in 1994. And then we decided we were going to do the conference. Then we started, at the time there were only 4 GSAs, or what used to be called gay straight alliances are now called gender and sexuality alliances in schools. And now there's over 200, and we've sort of had a role in all of those. And we've worked with DCF really right from the beginning, because DCF recognized that LGBTQ plus youth are overrepresented in the child welfare system and the juvenile justice system, and that their experiences of rejection and oppression lead to more hostile interactions with the system. Mm-hmm. And so DCF right from the beginning has been a strong supporter of our work. I like to say that now True Colors does education and advocacy for gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer questioning, two-spirit, same-gender loving, pansexual, flexual, not straight, not labeling, straight-ish, straight so far, straight with options, straight but stuff happens, gender bending, bi-gendered, pangendered, agendered, asexual, and non-binary and other sexual and gender minority youth. Wow. Back in the day, there was just gay and straight, and yes. Now there's all these ways that people are really sort of exploring their identities in ways that are much more accurate and much more representative of the diversity of the human experience.
Right. So that label that they're feeling comfortable with is one of those many that you just talked about. Right. So tell us about True Colors. I know that you had said that it was something that had come from a project really in school, but I know in knowing what I do know about True Colors and having a chance to look at your website, you have so much that you offer at True Colors. So when you started this, did you have to get a 501c3 and create a nonprofit?
Yeah.
So
it was all volunteer in the beginning, and then in about 1998, the Department of Public Health had some leftover funding from HIV funding, HIV prevention, and so we do a lot of youth leadership and esteem building, which is related to HIV prevention. So we had to get a fiscal sponsor in order to be able to receive the money. That was the Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective. So then we decided to we incorporated, we got our own 501c3. That happened in 1999. And initially we did the conference and the work with the GSAs, and in about 2001, we started the Safe Harbor Task Force with the Department of Children and Families. And that task force was looking at, it's True Colors and DCF, and there's a liaison in each of the DCF offices and facilities. And that looks at the needs of LGBTQ plus youth in out-of-home care, plus LGBTQ plus foster parents and workers. That project has a monthly task force, lots of training. We've helped with lots of policy and programming with DCF, and so it's been a really successful partnership. One of the things that we're working with DCF on that's part of that partnership is recruiting families for teenagers of all orientations and genders. That, there's certain kids that are harder to place than other kids, medically complex, large sibling groups and so on. And teenagers are really hard to place in families. That people, teenagers get a bad rap. And so they often end up in either restricted levels of care or congregate care, like group homes and stuff that really is not family centered. And so right now we're recruiting for 3 LGBT youth that have been in the system a long time, and there's a young Muslim girl, I think she's 16 or 17, in the greater Hartford area, whose family has rejected her on the basis of her orientation. So we're looking for a family for her. There's a young man in the Waterbury area who has been in the system a really long time, and another young person in Bridgeport who's been in the system for 8 years or longer. Wow. And both of the boys are in very restricted levels of care, that they don't need to be there, but there's nobody. We need a family
and are
for
you
them.
Looking for a family for foster care or for permanency?
Well,
for
foster care initially, and it's been interesting because we also have a mentoring program. So we're the only mentoring program right now that DCF supports that matches LGBTQ plus in youth in out-of-home care with LGBTQ plus and ally adults. And a number of our mentors have become foster parents. I don't know that any of our mentors have adopted their kids, but they've become long-term foster parents. Some of our mentoring matches are 10 years old or longer. And so our mentors have been a really big resource for young people. And with the girl in West Hartford and the boy in Litchfield, we might start by giving them a visiting resource to get to know them before they, move into a family. There's a young person that we just matched who really wants to be adopted. People never stop longing for family, no matter how old you are.
They don't.
And so he really wants to be adopted, so he's been begging his mentors to adopt him. And so they're starting to look at the process of fostering as a let's start here.
Because right now they're just mentors.
Right now they're just mentors, and so they want to do it slowly because you don't want to set the kid up for another rejection. So you want to make sure that you really know what you're getting into.
Right. And with that boy that you're talking about, is he legally free?
Yes. Well, I don't think the girl is legally free. I think both of the boys are legally free.
Because they seem so appropriate for the Heart Gallery.
Exactly.
To be able to put
their
and
that might very well be.
Their story out there.
Logan was from the Midwest. His family couldn't care for him there. They sent him to Connecticut. The family could not care for him, and he doesn't really have any family. The young person in Bridgeport is really trying to figure out if he's a gay boy or a trans girl, and has other mental health stuff. So it's taking time for that child to figure out really who they are.
How difficult when they don't have that family.
Exactly.
Base.
And the family absolutely will not tolerate the child as a trans kid. And so if the child has any hope of going home, he has to try to make those feelings go away. And so for a period of time, he's able to do it, and then the girl just, kind of comes back up. So I believe they've now terminated parental rights, and they're looking for permanency for that child. But again, we don't know what their identity is going to be.
Right.
And
if any of our viewers watching right now are interested in reaching out to you, is there a contact on?
Yeah, they can email me at director@ourtruecolors.org. They can go on the web at ourtruecolors.org, or they could call us at 860-232-0050. And what we do, we don't license families. What what we do is we identify families and then send them into the appropriate organization, whether it's DCF or one of the therapeutic providers to do the training. We work with lots of DCF folks and lots of therapeutic providers to make sure that if it's an LGBT family, that they're going to walk into a welcoming environment with somebody who understands the unique needs and concerns of their families.
I was fortunate enough to be a part of the campaign had to find LGBTQ families in our state. And when this segment ends, we're going to be showing a video of two of our dads who have been licensed to foster and adopt. So can we talk about so you've covered the work that DCF does together, and we are, we definitely appreciate the training and all the education. Over the years, because you're talking about a 25-year span of time, how have you seen things change?
So that's an interesting question, because on the one hand, things are different now. Kids are coming out really early. The average age that kids are coming out as LGB is 11 to 13, and even 10 years ago, that was 19 for boys and 22 for girls. Wow. So if you think about that at 19 or 22, kids are launched. And so if their families struggle, kids have ways to care for themselves while their families are coming along in their process. Because when a kid comes out, they're not coming out alone. The whole family's on a journey, right? And but now that when they're coming out at 10 or 11 or 12, they're going to be home for a lot longer period of time. Sometimes a kid comes out and everything is fine. Their families are fine, the schools are fine, their friends are fine, everything's cool. Sometimes a kid comes out and their whole world implodes. And there's, we wouldn't have close to 50 kids in the mentoring program if some kids were not experiencing their worlds imploding when they come out. And it's hard to predict which family is going to have which reaction. That what we know is that a family's initial reaction is rarely their final reaction. So that we can work with families, and that a lot of the research on family response says that if this is the risk factor for kids whose families are rejecting, and this is the risk factor for kids whose families are supportive, this is the risk factor for kids whose families are ambivalent. So it's not as good as if they were supportive, but it's nowhere near as bad as if they were rejecting, which means that families don't have to transform themselves to make room for their kids, and that even small changes can make a huge difference. And so I think that one of the things that's really different now is that we're putting much more emphasis on caring for families in addition to children. That yes, we want to focus on the LGBT youth, but we also want to focus on their family, because at the end of the day, families really matter.
They absolutely do. So what do you think is the change in children coming out so much younger than they have in the past?
I think the biggest thing is more information. 25 years ago, I would ask people in trainings, how many people in here know somebody personally who's lesbian, gay, or bisexual? And probably 2 or 3 little hands would go up in the back of the room, right? And now I ask that question and every hand in the room goes up. And then I say, how many people in here know somebody personally who's trans or non-binary? And only about 1/4 of the hands go up. And that the reality is, one of the most effective forms of sort of bias reduction is face-to-face interactions over a period of time. So the more people you get to know, the more it begins to break down sort of the stories and the myths and the stereotypes that were, and the stigmas that were, sort of given to us as children. People know LGB folks a lot more than they know trans and non-binary folks. And so as more trans and non-binary folks come out, and the trans kids are coming out in 3 and 4, right? And I think that there's some really great possibilities for the trans and non-binary kids as parents are listening differently to these little ones coming out and supporting their exploration, supporting their sort of journey into figuring out who they are. They're not having the same kind of drama and trauma that kids who are rejected at those ages are having. So it looks very different for a trans kid coming out very young now versus a trans kid who came out in the system, got thrown out, by their families and so on. So,
what barriers do you still see that we have to work through as a society?
wow. There's a lot of barriers. I think that we have to figure out how to, number one, create civil discourse, right? That the powers that be, whatever side of the fence you're on, have not been modeling civil discourse very well. I think we have to recognize that people's personal views are different than their professional responsibilities. And that while people may be entitled to their personal views, if you're someone who works with children or families, you have to figure out how to balance your personal beliefs with your professional responsibilities to ensure, and that includes foster parents, right? That we have to make sure that we're not letting our stuff hurt the children that we're supposed to be caring for. I think we need continued education. I think we need more people talking about it. And also, sometimes I think, it's not enough sometimes we can't agree to disagree. If you believe that LGBTQ plus youth don't have a right to exist, then I don't have a space for your belief, right? Because what you're saying is that those children don't have a right to be who they are. And so I can't agree to disagree on that because you're denying the humanity of a whole group of people. You can say, I don't approve, I don't like it, it's this, and we can work with that. But I think that's a big thing. And I think in the foster care system, one of the things that we do is that we go into communities of faith to recruit foster parents who want to live their faith in fostering. There are some communities of faith that have very strong positions against homosexuality, bisexuality, and gender identity, non-traditional gender identity and expression. That sets us up for a problem because kids don't always come out. You don't necessarily know who the kid is that you're getting, right? So you could get, I don't know how much time we have left, but I had a kid, a foster parent, who identified her religion as being a very core part of who she was. And she told this story about a 12-year-old that was in her home, and there were 7 siblings. She had 4. Another woman who shared her same religious tradition had 3. They were very close friends. The 12-year-old was, when he first came into her home, was wearing tight, brightly colored clothing, and kept asking her about these gay kids at school. And what she told him in no uncertain terms was that she would never have a gay person in her home. She started buying him looser and less colorful clothing. And after a few weeks, he stopped bringing it up. And in her opinion, what she did is she set him on the right path. She straightened him out.
She thought she changed
she changed his mind. I don't know if this kid is gay or not. What I know is that he doesn't have a safe place to figure out who he is. And my experience has been that when kids don't have a safe place to explore, they explore in unhealthy ways. And I fear for his future. But at the same time, if we intervene and remove him, he'll lose contact with his siblings.
Right.
And so as an advocate, what's the right thing to do?
Right.
And I don't know what the right thing is to do.
Has anyone spoken to that foster mom about?
Absolutely. They've been working very directly with that foster mom. The damage may already be done, but at least, they've been working with the foster mom. They have somebody working with the young person. And so, to see what we can do. I want that child to be in a space where nobody has an investment in what his orientation is going to be. That their investment is that he's happy, healthy, authentic, and productive, right? And that he can be that, gay, straight, or bi. He can be that. And I don't want, you want him to be in a neutral home that just allows him to learn and explore safely
And I
who he
think
is.
you bring up a good point, because we as social workers have to check our biases at the door. And with foster families, they have to do the same, even with extreme religious beliefs, because you don't know the child who's coming into your home, who that child is. Sometimes they develop right there within your home. Now, I understand that you have a big conference coming up next month.
March 22nd and 23rd.
And before we end, I want to be able to give you a chance to talk about that. So can you tell us about the conference?
Sure. The conference, this year, the theme is called, it's number 26.
Okay.
The theme is This Is Me, which is a celebration of identity. There'll be 290 workshops to choose from, and the conference is for LGBTQ plus ABCDFG youth and everybody that's responsible for their health and well-being. So there's tracks for educators, social workers, clinicians, family members, clergy, community members, and DCF will provide support for any foster parent or youth within the system who wants to go to the conference. And we have they can get in touch with us, and we can connect them up with the social workers that can get their registrations paid for, and so on. So there'll be about 3,700 people.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's at the University of Connecticut in Stores. It's Friday, March 22nd, and Saturday, March 23rd. Two of our keynotes are under 12.
Wow.
We have a 10-year-old kid governor.
Oh, you do have a
kid governor
coming?
who's a 10-year-old lesbian whose platform was LGBT youth in foster care and safety issues in foster care and in school settings. So she's going to be speaking. And then we have an 11-year-old young man who started his own drag house in New York as a 9-year-old.
Wow, 9 years old.
And so he's 11 now. Desmond is amazing, is his stage name.
And they give a keynote?
Yeah, they'll give a short speech and about that. And then James Lacine, who's the founder of the Trevor Project, which is the only 24/7 suicide prevention line for LGBT youth. He's also an artist and a performer and a writer.
Wow.
He's an amazing guy. He'll be there.
Boy, what a role model for other children to show their courage at that age, and what phenomenal families they must come from to have allowed them to
just be who they are.
Yeah. So the title of your conference is great, and I think so. Can you repeat again how people can get in touch with you?
So they can get in touch with us on the web at www.truecolors.org. They can email me at director@ourtruecolors.org.
Okay.
Or they can call us at 860-232-0050.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio. By empowering our youth and supporting these young leaders, we can be rest assured that their voices will speak for all LGBTQ youth and adults. They will be left feeling welcomed and connected as an integral part of our community. Now meet the Brickenhoff-Saunders family. It is my hope that today's segment will inspire our viewers to consider fostering or adopting a Connecticut child. Thank you.
I'm Dad.
And I'm Daddy.
I didn't see in my mind that a child would be part of my daily routine. But I said, there's this little girl in Danbury, and if she ever crosses my path, I will help her. And that's Indigo. And I felt she was very special, and she needed a very positive, good environment, and if I could offer that, if she was in need, I would do that. So I did mention Indigo to Troy. I received a phone call asking me if I would help Indigo, and I said yes. And I called Troy at work and said, I'm on my way to DCF. And he said, is it the little girl? I said yes, and he said, go get her. And we did.
Has she been with us ever since?
It's a blessing for us because we have a child. We couldn't do that for ourselves, but here she is.
She definitely changes the way you see yourself, the way you converse with other people, the way you even treat yourself.
It's about communication, I think, and that we share a lot of talk time. We're usually playing music and discussing the music. We often dance together.
She's in swimming, she's Girl Scout, she's violin, so we always have something to do.
And dinner, homework, shower, bed, read, all that stuff, which is so precious to me because I know the day will come that she won't want to do that. So I really, really value that time with her. On her own, she started to call me Dad, which is the most important name I've ever had in my life.
We went to Hawaii shortly after Indigo came with us, and as they were playing in the pool, she was like, Dad! Dad! Like, did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? I just called you Dad.
She called Troy Pop a couple times, and then she went back to Troy. So we thought that maybe Pop was gonna stick, but then she started to call him Daddy, and that was it. I never really put being gay and being a parent together. I didn't think about it because a small part of who I am is that I'm a gay man, and it's okay with me, and I'm happy with that. It's who I am.
It's not all about me, but it's also bringing me out of a shell that I was keeping myself in, out of fear of what somebody thought of me.
Indigo will come home from school and share with us children asking her questions, and she answers the questions very appropriately and well. And what I reinforce is what's really, really important is that you have two parents and we both love you and care for you and we take care of each other. So we have this very strong unit of support, and that's what family is about. I have also communicated in this process with friends of mine who are gay, who have interest in adopting, and they didn't believe that they could foster or adopt through the state. And I'm like, you can.
I remember one time we was at the lake, and she was out playing with some kids, and they was like, where's your parents? She's like, oh, my dad's over there. Where? Over there, on the towels. Where? The brown one and the white one.
It was so important to me that the three of us have a stage to grow in, and we had to create that environment for our family. It was time for us to have a family home for the three of us. She moved many, many, many times, and we needed to have that spot where she knew she was gonna have roots. When they're in an environment that's safe, and they feel safe, and they feel loved, and they feel like no matter what, Dad and Daddy's got my back, they just own their family. They're like, that's my dad's.
She said one time, she's like, all right, Dad, will you come with me on the school trip? Oh, next time, Daddy, can you come with me on the school? She wants us both to be there.
She's given everything in my life purpose, because I'm not just living for me. When Indigo spreads her wings and does whatever it is she's gonna do, I hope that I can say, ooh, I was a good dad. Right? Like, I'll know that I'm a success as a parent when she shines.
Yeah, I have faith she's gonna shine. Yeah. She's gonna shine.